Hey everybody, Coach Austin here. We're going to be going over a recording here today on talking about how stress can impact weight and impact performance. So recently I had this client come to me talking about nutrition, talking about exercise, and really talking about what's called pulling levers. And so what we want to look at while we're doing some of these things is to identify why is this person not losing weight. So let's say this person is stuck on a plateau and we're going to get into it. So when we click on body weight, so this is something that pops up relatively normally as we get into it. And as you can see over the past 3 months, we're seeing a downward trend overall, which is great. But recently we're starting to see an upward trend. We've seen these actually in tri-weekly experiences, and we're going to talk about why this is. So if you guys haven't seen my first video on stimulus to fatigue and understanding why this happens, please watch it before getting into this and why we implement the strategies we do. So first things first, we're getting into this is talking about our overall trend is what we're trying to achieve is a downward trend over time. This is a great example of this along with training phases. So like I said in the first video that you guys should watch, you should understand why we do what we do before jumping into this and being like, well, I know why weight isn't losing or this person isn't losing weight. So let's talk about it. So in this consistency of slowly downward trending of weight, what we've been noticing is every 3 weeks, there's a high increase of body weight. So if you look here and here, so a great example is today is April 23rd. If we look at, like I said, about 21 days ago, we're at towards the end of a training phase here and here. So this actually makes sense. And it's also trending downwards in weight. So this is what we're going to talk about. So what happens is we see an increase of weight here slightly. This is due to high stress on the body. And every time you do exercise, that is a stress on the body. So let's talk about, some factors here of why that may be. So when we're looking at stress over time, one indicator that we can actually see that also is relatively trending is heart rate over time. We start to see an increase of heart rate elevation over time, resting heart rate specifically, and that typically means there's going to be some cortisol in the bloodstream because cortisol is a hormone, and as a result, we start to see this. Now, we got on a call here yesterday because this was the highest I wanted to see with this individual here, and as a result, we deloaded and de-stressed, and now look at this. We're starting to see a trend back downwards, which is great. So let's talk about some other things as we get into it. So as we saw here, we're going to go back into the biometrics. Weight is still trending upwards, which is actually normal. It's going to take time and average to decrease. But why are we seeing in a maintenance of weight and stuff like that? Well, like I said, cardiovascular, there's a response of increased cortisol in the bloodstream. So as a result, there's a higher resting heart rate. Okay, the second thing that we're going to look at is this client recovering? So we want to look at this detail. Is this client recovering? And the average is actually about the same here. But what's actually happening is we've seen an increase in stimulus on training. Thus, over 3 weeks, the body takes 21 to 21 days to adapt appropriately. Make sure you watch the first video. Like I said, if you guys are still with me, there's going to be an increase of stress and thus increase of weight. So what do we have to do? We have to deload. We have to take stress off the body. And so what we're doing is we're taking stress off the body, as you guys saw. As a result, the body should respond with a decrease in weight over time. And so as a result, this is today, but what we're going to start to see is a downward trend here. So instead of just pulling calories and your coach is like, all right, let's just keep pulling calories, this is perfectly fine. What you need to assess is the training data. Looking at the training data and saying, hey, this is actually what's happening. We're also seeing a sympathetic and parasympathetic response. If you guys don't know what that means, it's like fight or flight response from stress. And are the variables we're keeping consistent? So what happens during a deload? Well, this is what we're going to talk about in another video coming up. But basically, we focus on just maintaining steps, keeping a light assessment of stimulus on the body. And I do that in one-on-one coaching. We talk about that. But overall, I wanted to give you guys an example of why specifically this person is not losing weight. And if you're struggling with this, where you're like, hey, I'm not losing weight, I've been progressing well in the gym, doing all the right things, I'm eating really well, this may be why. Is it's time for a deload. It's time to take stress off the body. Remember, an assessment takes 21 to 28 days. So if your coach is not talking about this, make sure to look at that. So overall, like I said, if we're looking at body weight over time, over the past 3 months, we are seeing a great trend in the direction we want. But as of recently, because of the higher stimulus, what's happening here is there's going to be a positive linear response with weight. So thus, we have to deload and keep continuing to get averages over time. That will help significantly as we progress forward. Now, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. But here's what we're going to talk about here coming up next.